this to order.
Yeah.
All right, so basically what we're here to do is to start a discussion on changes in state law relative to medical marijuana. And I know both of you have seen the summary of the state law and then Tyler, your observation of it. So I guess we'll just begin by asking people. Hey.
After that, wish the committee and Tyler should declare Tyler's has a direct conflict of interest in the drafting of this ordinance. He should recuse himself. And Scott McGinnis was here and explained this just a couple of days ago. He shouldn't be allowed to have any influence on this ordinance.
So not even discussion. I wasn't there, so I don't know what he said.
I was going to stay out of voting
Okay.
and discussions. This was a recommendation if we decided to proceed.
Right.
It wasn't a recommendation to proceed. So that was my position.
Michigan statute, you have a direct conflict of interest. You cannot influence this committee or the council in any way regarding this. You can sit back here with us, and observe what's going on, but you can't influence, you can't be part of any determining factors. You're out. It's a direct conflict of interest. The recommendations you can make could possibly hurt other businesses.
I'll stay out of it.
Okay. Okay.
Before we get onto this issue, could we discuss another ordinance issue real quick?
Well, let's let petitions from the public
Okay.
and then
All right.
and then we can go on.
Yeah, 'cause it's just a quick thing about the blight one and what we're gonna do on the cleanup.
Okay.
That's all it is.
Okay.
So
We
can we do that quickly?
Well,
All right.
well, let's let
All
them
right.
speak and
Sure.
then we'll and then we can move
Okay.
on to our business. So yes.
Oh, I just would like to be a part of drafting the ordinance. I own this garden, which is the dispensary up here, obviously, so I just want to participate.
Okay. Can I ask why you're in favor? I mean, obviously you have a business, but I think when it comes to bringing this to the public, I suspect there's going to be a lot of opposition. So I mean, have you thought about that, and have you thought about why you would be in support of this?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm obviously an advocate, but I come from a background. I like to approach it as medicine and nursing.
Can you speak up a little bit because I can barely hear you.
I'm aware of the opposition, but I would like people to unlearn it and relearn it as medicine.
Okay.
So I'd like to just be vocal and participate in that.
Okay. Thank you. All right. And then you'll have a chance if you want to address this at the end again too. So you would like to, okay, what else would you like to cover?
In reference to another ordinance, 146 that we just passed, but it's not into effect right now.
Yeah.
I, along with Sandy Johnson, went to the Main Street meeting yesterday, and they're going to have a cleanup, the annual cleanup of the Main Street, the downtown area, same day that we were planning on doing it. And this is going to be from 10 to 12. And they're going to have like refreshments and maybe hot dogs or something for the volunteers afterwards. I talked to Steve Kello. We're not going to get the dumpster now because it's just ridiculously expensive. It's $590. And they were very, very strict about what could go in there, like a lot more strict than he thought they would be. So we decided to forgo that. So then the next issue was, Steve said the second thing we can do is get a dump truck, but we have to put a ladder up there for people to go in. And I said, I don't like that, because I don't want people on the ladder.
Liability.
Yeah, liability thing is a big issue. So what we decided to do, and it really won't cost anything besides the ad now, is we're gonna have from 10 to 12. Steve said, as long as you're checking what people are bringing, you'll give us a list. It'll be in the paper, what they can bring, what they can't bring. They're even gonna take brush, but we have to keep it separate, like brush on one side and household goods. So I'm gonna volunteer to be out there. I think Sandy Johnson's gonna be out there. Anybody else, if you wanna be out there, that's fine. You've gotta be a resident. You can bring pretty much everything except for tires and you know, electronics, things like that. What we decided to do with Main Street is they're gonna do all the social media stuff, radio station, whatever they do, you know, to get the word out there. And when we do our ad, we're just gonna include on the bottom that, we're coordinating with Main Street. We're gonna put a little blip in there about trying to coordinate together. Now, Steve said they can actually bring their stuff that they collect, you know, instead of having to take it away or wait till Monday. He said it would be nice if they put all their stuff where we're gonna have, you know, the pickup. And then they'll just pick it up Monday. So there won't be any cost for a truck, a dumpster, overtime for the guys, nothing. And it'll be right behind the Family Dollar in the parking lot that the village owns.
Okay. So what's gonna happen? I mean,
We
there'll be a
just
dump
need to-
truck there and.
We're not gonna have a dump truck.
But these people will just bring things
Bring
there.
stuff there, we're gonna put up signs and things like that, but we need to do the ad in the paper, but we're still waiting on Steve because, you know, he wasn't available, you know, this week, next week sometime. But I just wanted to run it past you that we're gonna coordinate it with the Main Street thing. Yeah, so we can get everybody. Then at the same time, what I'd like to do, if it's okay with this committee, is, you know, because we have this new blight ordinance, we can coordinate what was in the paper, make copies, and at the same time, when people come to bring their items, we can hand out and say, this is a new blight ordinance, you know, we're trying to make it easy for you guys to clean up, and, you know, here's what's going to be in effect in like, you know, 30 days or less. So we can get copies of the blight ordinance and hand out, that'd be nice too.
Okay,
And anything else you think would be good on that day, we can discuss later.
okay.
So the cost is going down to an ad in the paper.
Okay.
Yeah, when we-
You'll have a chance, you can have a chance at the end when we're done. Unless, Virginia, do you want a question now?
We have a time limit on the beginning? I mean, am I allowed this? I was under the
Well, we have
impression
moved
that I had a
beyond,
time
we
limit.
had moved beyond petitions from the public, but Virginia, if you have no
I
objection.
didn't know that petition was over.
Is
I thought
this
she
in
was
reference to the
addressing it.
cleanup day?
Yeah, it was. Actually, it's kind of helpful.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, please.
I got a group of volunteers and last year we took several loads of brush from different areas of this. And I can save Steve the time and the gas money on all the brush. I could pick up all the brush with my volunteers on that day. But I have another suggestion. I like the idea of not having the dumpster, you know, I like the idea of hauling out for ourselves. But what we have is we have a lot of disabled people that won't be able to make it down there. And then we have a lot of people that work even on the weekends. And even no matter how much notice you give them, if it's not that right person out of that household to move that trash down to this area, it's gonna be hard for them to make it. I really don't, I think the way Orium does theirs is very efficient, and I think our guys could be efficient at it as well. They go by with the dump truck, they drive down the road, they've got the loader right behind it. They scoop up what's in front of somebody's property and put it in there. I understand it's incurring an additional cost, and this should be something that we address in the sanitation meeting. You know, that way we can correspond that with the sanitation budget. But I would like to help out with the brush, so, you know, everybody here has got my contact number. You know, I would love to know when and where.
Well, the one thing I didn't add to that, there's gonna be the regular spring cleanup, Monday through Friday. You can have your stuff out from the 15th to the 19th curbside, brush only. And the village guys are gonna pick that up.
Right.
The reason Steve is gonna allow brush on Saturday is because a lot of times people don't have time to get their stuff together, and if they wanna bring it there, they can. Now, another issue too is, you know, Steve is not against, like during the week, if somebody has a problem getting something from point A to point B, you know, because we're here to try to clean up the village, okay, that's the bottom line. You know, clean the village up. He said, we're gonna be as user-friendly as possible, so we'll keep that in mind. We just gotta gel together, you know, what isn't allowed, you know, things like that, yeah.
Cool, because that's really key to some of the neighbors. I mean, some people really close to you, they're not physically possible. Becky on the corner, they've got a big pile that they would love to get rid of, you know, but they're not physically able to do that. And, you know, if we get enough volunteers, then maybe we can, you know, with permission, get some of these backyards. You know, there's a place right across the Morrison School. If I was able to, with my guys, be able to hit some of those backyards and just put stuff up on the curb, then we could get a lot accomplished. So just consider that, you know, talk with Steve, because I'm sure as a village, we'd be willing to throw a couple of $1,000s at this cleanup. I mean, that's what our millage is for to begin with anyway. So I like it. I like it. I think it's a great plan. We just gotta consider some of the people that
we gotta
can't
make
make
it
it.
gel yet. I think during the week though, the only thing that they're going to pick up is brush. I'm pretty sure that's all they're gonna do. So, anything else, we're gonna have to figure out the logistics of getting it to that parking lot, because in one big swoop, they're gonna take that stuff away.
Well, the only suggestion is you bring it to the curb and then have our street department, rather than bringing it to the parking lot.
Right, you
have
can-
it
If I
out.
see brush during the week, I'll get it on the truck and get out of there. But for 1 week, the village will
We're just
look
talking
trash.
brush, you're just talking brush?
No, my guys to pick up brush, but
Yeah.
what I was talking about with the trash is, for instance, Becky, all right, she has a bunch of trash that we can't put in the brush pile. If all she had to do was get it to the curb, her and her boyfriend would be able to do that. And there's a lot of other people, a
Oh,
lot
I'm
of
sure.
elderly people that are the same way. And with our volunteers, we can only do so much with so many volunteers. We don't have a clue who's gonna show up. I know how many I can get, but we don't know who's gonna show up. So if we were able to, as a village, just put it on the curb, and then they come by with a loader and pick that stuff up, and we have a 4 or 5 day window to get it out on the curb. That doesn't mean it gets picked up that day. Steve might not have the time to get it picked up that day, but for 1 week, the village would have trash out on the curbs. But after that, we'd have so much gone, it would be a lot easier to keep up with. But no matter what, if we end up having to put it over there, something's better than nothing.
Well, the way he was describing it, he said he'd prefer to have the branches, leaves, stuff like that, Monday through Friday, and then everything else to make it easy, because those guys are gonna be, there's only 2 employees now over there, remember, it's just him and Rob. So that's why the Saturday, he'd like everything right there, so they can, just get it right there, get it loaded in the dump truck and get rid of it.
We'll mention to him next time we talk
Yeah,
to
I
him
will.
that I would be glad to get all the brush in the village. I will take care of all the brush if that will allow him more time for the other. I don't have any.
Now, I'll have to talk to Steve, because I know the way they do it is as people clean their yards, they put it out, and they'll go Monday and look around, they'll go Tuesday, they'll just keep touring around. So hopefully we'll make it user-friendly for everybody, because that's the whole purpose of this.
The one other choice too would be, if you can't bring it to that parking lot, have them call the village.
Yeah.
And maybe in certain circumstances, then we would have it picked up at curbside.
Well, I have an idea, now that we're talking about this, if we could put in our little ad in the paper too, is if people have things other than brush, put it out on the sidewalk, and on Saturday, if you and your volunteers would be willing, put it out on the sidewalk, and the volunteers will pick these things up and bring it over there, so then they can put it in the truck and get it to the transfer station. But just bear in mind, we're gonna have a list of things the transfer station doesn't take. Like
Right.
electronics, tires, paint, oil, things like that.
Right.
So we could do that too, sure.
Yeah.
Whatever works, I'm in.
My main thing is, the guys I've got a couple of, like, behind my place, that my next door neighbor's property, up across the street, there's a couple of properties, and then of course Klutz, we did doing stuff out of Klutz yard, and then all the brush, so if we have time, I'd be glad to help anybody get their stuff up there, but I don't know exactly how many volunteers I'm gonna have, and I don't exactly know how much brush, but no matter how much brush is there, I can handle all the brush in the village. So, if that helps in the deciding factor of who's gonna do what, just let me know. Nate, you're getting all the brush, and I can take it. It's only a mile and a half up the road to drop it, so
Okay.
it's no burden.
We will be talking to Steve and see what's good for them. Thank you.
So, am I withdrawing my recommendations then?
Are you gonna explain to us what your conflict of interest is? So we know?
I have ties to the industry.
Do you have personal ties to the industry?
What do you mean?
Like, are you gonna be personally benefiting from this?
No. I hold shares in companies that are related to the industry. So,
So if you think it's advantageous, probably, abstain from any discussion, but we should really check with the attorney. If you're not gonna like financially benefit from this in any way, like, or help somebody else financially benefit, because I think that's one of the keys too.
Yeah, we can check with, because I don't know, yeah. It's kind of a gray area, so.
I mean, I was already planning on staying out of voting and such.
But discussion is the same, discussion can be a big issue too if you have skin in the game.
I can
I mean,
stay
I
out of
don't know.
discussions. No, I'll stay out of discussions. Should I withdraw my recommendations?
Should we try to
If
contact
I'm
our
not,
village attorney?
if I'm not participating, then I don't know if my recommendations do us any good anyways.
Can we try to call our attorney and see if he's available?
I
Ask him a question?
I believe when I left home, I don't think his car was in the garage, so I don't think he's gonna be there, so. Again, we can have a very short meeting and agree to meet next week. To get some
I
clarification.
can give Jim Trish a call.
Do you wanna try?
Wanna
and see if he's
try?
there?
Yeah.
Alright.
Well, I'll stay out of this one.
Right.
Because I read kind of the rules, and the rules are like, if you have any, if you're helping somebody else with something and somebody's gonna benefit, then you have to be out. Or if you're gonna personally benefit, you have to be out. So, like this, to me is, what you gave to the council. This to me, and I'm no attorney, and I'm not gonna say it is or isn't, but this is almost like the same thing as having a discussion and then not voting, because you're giving us information that will benefit possibly people and things like that.
Well,
And
we
you gotta be
withdraw-
well, we're gonna talk to Tricia, but you gotta be real careful with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We don't wanna mess this up.
Let me withdraw this for now, talk to Tertia, and then,
Yeah, we'll get an opinion.
alright.
Yeah, we should have an opinion, because we don't wanna have you out if you don't have to be out, but if you need to be out, you need to be out. Okay?
Alright.
Thanks. All right, you've read what the
Yeah, I read that
law
one.
permits. I guess the question is how do we move forward? It's one of those things where I think you have to go to the full council and ask their opinion. They have all of this information. We know how long it would take it takes a while to draft an ordinance, so I guess, do we then
You
just,
got to answer.
Okay, thank you.
do we then just go to the next meeting and say, and I don't know, since Tyler can't participate, maybe we find someone else who's familiar with the law, who, can give us kind of the pros and cons. We certainly know what it permits. We know there are people who are interested in making it happen.
Yeah, we've got to be fair to everyone. What I don't see in this, and I guess we'll have to look further, is it gives us, what our requirements are. Do we write an ordinance or not? But I don't see anywhere in here, do we have to have like a hearing of public input? Do we have to do any of that kind of stuff? Would that be for benefit to do it? Because it doesn't say that
think so.
anywhere.
I think so. And even, obviously at any council meeting when it comes up, then, whoever is present has an opportunity to voice their opinion, pro and con. So,
Yeah. I know, I would feel more comfortable if we get all of our questions asked and Mr. Tricia would actually be here during the discussion, so we're fair about this and do it right.
okay, and that's fine. Again, we can table this and agree to meet, we can get a hold of him and ask him when he would be available. I don't know how knowledgeable he is as to the act itself. But yeah, is that what you would want to do?
Well, I guess we can do a little investigating with maybe the Michigan Municipal League on, what we have, what kind of input we have to have. Should we have public? Should we do this or that? But my big concern is the conflict of interest.
Right.
This seems like a huge conflict of interest.
Potentially, yeah, potentially.
Yeah, this, you know.
No, I mean, we need to get an opinion. I
Mhm.
mean, because I don't know what the answer is. I mean,
I don't either.
yeah, so I guess we go to our attorney. So, again, do you want to table this until we can have?
Yes, yes, I think we need to do this right.
Okay.
And it's a shame we didn't do this in the beginning.
Is there anything else you want to cover today?
One more thing before we get into the, and it has to do with another ordinance. I noticed it's kind of the same old issue over on the corner of 7th Street and Oak, the scaffolding.
Oh, okay.
There's a huge chunk that's ready to fall off. A lot has come off already of that metal facade way up top, and now there's a big chunk that's hanging. If we get a big wind, boy, that could hurt somebody's property, something.
Yeah.
We gotta do something about that. And I don't know if we need to enforce ordinance number 141, which is the dangerous buildings and structures. I don't know what we need to do, but we need to do something.
Okay.
You know, because flying tin and pieces of building are not, that's dangerous as far as I'm concerned. And I can tell you a piece has already fallen off that went through one of the windows, which our street superintendent had to clean up. That happened maybe 3 weeks ago. So I don't know how we want to handle that, but, you know,
Well,
it's flapping in the wind kind of.
we can send a letter to them and indicate to them that they have 14 days.
Are we gonna send them a copy of the ordinance as well? I mean, are we
Yeah,
gonna do
I
that?
mean, well, why not? And I mean, you know, and I can ask Joe to contact the building inspector to see if he can come in and.
Because that's been there 2 years now, there's no activity, it's just getting worse.
I think,
and-
and again, this is something for Tertia because that scaffolding is on the public right away.
Mhm.
I suspect we can order it to be removed.
And it's close to a hydrant if there was ever a fire.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned, like, if people are riding a bike or walking by or
Right,
even
something
have parking their
falls.
car,
Yeah, something
you know, that
falls.
flappy tin stuff can go flying and
Yeah, I
really
agree.
hurt somebody.
I agree. I mean, again, let's get Tertia here
Okay.
and see what we can do.
All right, very good.
Okay, is there anything else?
That's it.
All right, yeah, Nate?
One thing, I think that I can be extremely helpful with the medical marijuana ordinance. I have no financial interest whatsoever. I'm not eligible for all the new stuff that's coming along, but I pay attention to it constantly. Alicia, I don't know Alicia that well, but she seems really intelligent, and I'm sure she would have things that she could help you with as far as the act itself. But I would be willing to make copies. The new law, how they changed it, it's no more than 80 pages long. And it's kind of redundant, but the things that you guys need to know about it are right there in the law. And the things that you guys can't find out the answers to will be answered on an ongoing basis for the next 3 or 4 months. The main thing is that you have the ordinance in place and that the village is able to start benefiting from this, because right off the bat, you collect a fee, and then once everything's established, and Alicia gets to feel better because now she knows that she can pay her fees, and the village isn't going to necessarily make a whole lot of money. Alicia might be able to tell us what our cut would be based on her sales now, but it is income, and it's income that we need.
Right.
My main thing with Tyler represents 2 companies in Las Vegas, and he also is in direct competition with Alicia's business and the Noggin at the mall in Portage Township. And I'm kind of a free trade thing, a lot of ways corporations keep the little guy out is through over-regulation, I want to see the shops up here act legally and responsibly. I don't want to see long lines of, deadheads out there, just out there wanting to get high, smoking dope on the sidewalks or anything like that. I want people to be able to go in the store, get what they need, go home and do what they do, they do it the right way, not the illegal way, because right now, 90% of it's illegal. And, with this legislation, it's going to be tough on a lot of people, and so there'll be changes going through. The main thing for the village is that whatever dispensaries we do have here, that we have the oversight, that we're able to make sure that they're complying with the law, and that we are benefiting from it as well. But but the idea of putting a lot of restrictions on who and what can come in and do the business, you know, some restrictions, yes, but when you're restricting people based on what money they have in the bank, is one of the things I saw in there. You know, how does a person grow their business? They've got everything they have that they've been putting into this for 8 years, and it's a lot of people around here that have put everything they have right back into it. They haven't gone out and bought all the nice cars like some guys have. They put all their money right back into it because they've got a passion for it, you know. And, you know, so I would love to help you guys. You know, if you like, I can make some copies of the act, drop them off with Joe, and you guys can pick them up and read them. I think for you guys to make a responsible decision, you should really know what the law says.
Have you seen draft ordinances yet? I mean,
There's some
municipalities.
different-
I'd be curious. Good, great. If you have some, yeah, I'd really be curious. Yeah.
You know, I have a question for you. What jurisdictions in the UP have drawn up these ordinances so far, do you know? Like Marquette City, I know, is not going to do it.
We know of a couple in Caspian area, they got one
Okay.
drafted. There's another woman we're in contact with.
Because I'm hearing that there's not a whole lot of jurisdictions. I mean, this is just, I don't know this for sure, that are gonna be out with this and are not gonna draw up ordinances. I don't know if that's true or it's not true. I can't tell you.
The article I read recently said some of the places in Lower Michigan are having that issue because of their zoning restrictions and how they do it. So certain places, there isn't as many that fit all their zoning areas. But I heard a lot of the ones that have been chosen are rural areas, besides obviously the big, like Detroit metro area. They wrote an ordinance last year being ahead of the law, and Lansing's had one for, I think, a couple of years, that they're now redoing because of the new
laws.
The new laws.
Okay. Yeah, if I can get copies of those,
No,
can I keep this?
You can take that one,
All
yeah.
right. Okay, great. Wait, do you want a copy of this then?
Yeah, I can get a copy of that, sure. Which jurisdiction is that? Is that Gaston, you said?
This
It's
is.
from another state. but
Yeah,
it's
this
just-
is actually
From another
California.
state?
Yeah, it looks like
Yeah.
California.
But their laws might be different than our laws, so it would be nice to get a copy of an ordinance in the state of Michigan, because we're different than
Right.
other
Well, if you say
jurisdictions.
Lansing's got one in Detroit, I mean, we can,
Yeah.
I'm sure if we go to their municipal websites,
Yeah.
that they're available.
Because in some
there.
states, it's just like, where one of my kids lives in Alaska, it's just legal. You know, they have 2 dispensaries, 3 dispensaries in the whole state, and that's it.
Yeah,
Very regulated,
Mhm.
but they're big.
right. Is there anything else?
One more thing.
Yep.
And they're big. There's an effort for corporations to take over this industry.
Sure.
And hey, that's great. I like everything regulated, but the people in this industry for 8 years have been able to operate and build businesses and feed their families off of this. You know, I mean, this has been the biggest job creation bill in the history of Michigan. No other bill created more jobs than the 2008 medical marijuana law. 100,000 caregivers. That's 100,000 people making their living taking care of patients. And now, that's not including the patients that make a living by selling their overages as well to the dispensary. So I understand the need for regulation because there are many in the community that don't want it at all, you know. And so let's try to make everybody happy. I know Alicia's on board to appease those who would not want it around. I know that she would do, you know, she's in here willing to talk to you guys. I can give you a more patient-oriented opinion, but when we do this, let's not thwart a growing industry. You know, even though we only have room for a couple of places in the village by Michigan law, you know, it can have a huge impact on the economy all around us. You know, if we discourage it. I mean, UP growers are already disadvantaged by our electric bills. You know, we pay higher costs than anybody else, but yet people from all over the country and even the world, they come here for ours because it's high quality. I mean, high quality. People in California say, damn, you got good stuff. You know, and, you know, just kind of keep that in mind. Y'all do the best you can.
I just wanted want to say
sorry.
that we just want to be helpful. You know, we're certainly not here to be a nuisance. My background is nursing. I'd like to transition into alternative medicine, so that's my focus on it. I'd like to treat it as medicine. Access to affordable and effective healthcare is a constitutional right. There's a lot of people right here in Calumet that use medical marijuana and really get serious relief from it. It's actually amazing to watch sometimes, and so I would just like to continue that path. That's my focus.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
It's amazing how many people have required this now since this law's been in. That's the part that amazes me.
And it's difficult to unlearn it as this dangerous drug that we've been taught it is and relearn it as medicine, and so I completely understand people's disposition. There are people that are abusive of marijuana, there are people that are abusive of all kinds of things. I understand that. We're not here to advocate any of that. That's why we want to have policies, regulations, health codes to stand up to.
No, I mean, you guys have been good citizens. I mean, I pointed out to people, we have more trouble at some of our bars, but we don't have any problems with the dispensary. So, and I think that's something to bear in mind too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
So,
We just want to do this right. You got to understand,
I totally
because
agree.
this area, if you look around, there's, the businesses are declining, and it's a historic district, and there's all these different, like, moving parts.
Mhm.
And we just want to make sure we do it right,
Right.
I'm not sure what the answer is. I wish it wasn't conflicting with federal law. I wish the law was written a little better in Michigan, where you just couldn't get a card from the traveling doctor that comes to the motel. I wish things were different, because it would put such a better spin on this thing. It really would. It would make a lot of people, because I'm hearing from a lot of people that not too many people are going to be for it, I'm just telling you. But if it was done a little bit cleaner and tighter, you might get more people on board.
Well, that's where the ordinance would come in.
Right.
But still, the Michigan law is so,
The way it's changing, Virginia, I think you're gonna be a little happier. I mean, there's gonna be, like me, I'm not happy with the changes because it's gonna hurt a lot of people that have been making their living off of it. But in the same respect, it's gonna make a lot of other people happy that have not been happy with the lack of regulation. So they're trying to meet in the middle. I would expect in a couple of years it may change again. But the basic requirement for the village to get involved is your level of oversight, what you're going to be willing to put in to make sure not only Alicia, but other shops are doing what they're, an enforcement officer basically, and something in writing with the dispensaries as they apply for their permit stating, this is the enforcement officer, this is your guy, and, the state's regulations will cover the rest. The main thing is what you're going to require for your own oversight. What Keith is going to, how involved is Keith going to be in checking up to make sure. The state's going to be requiring, they're going to be really strict for cameras and video, and they modeled their law off of Colorado. And let me tell you, those guys, they're being watched constantly. It's not just one guy with 50 cameras, it's 5 guys with 5 cameras each, 5 screens each, and they're getting fined. When they make mistakes, they get fined. And what she's trying to do is not easy, because she's, it's going to put her at a real disadvantage when the law changes, because her expenses are going to just go through the roof, and it's not something that we want to see fail. And just for the record, I only met Alicia just recently, because when they opened up, I came there. I don't, I've never seen them around. We're not friends, so just, I'm not here advocating just for them. I'm advocating for the whole industry, because every little job counts, and these are good paying jobs. There's people making good money, 40, 50, 60. There's some guys making far more than that, but on average, caregivers are making $50,000 to $70,000 a year, and with a full card, and that's after expensive, and that's not a ton of money, but it's better than $8.50 an hour at McDonald's, and for the last 8 years they've poured everything they had into building these businesses and learning how to do this, because nobody gave us directions. You know, this is all brand new. Everybody that's done this has been trial and error. You know, they've had failures along the way, you know. I mean, when your whole crop fails and you got a $10,000 electric bill, that dooms you. You're done. And so, you know, it's not an easy money criminal thing, but if we don't have regulations for it, that's when the criminal element comes in, you know, and so.
No, the one question I have, you know, you say it's lucrative, and I know there's a lot of these, you know, these provider-based things like you have, but, you know, up here, the unemployment rate is so high, I just wonder, you know, where all these people that are using these facilities get the money to buy this, so people like you and others can make, you know, a good living. It just boggles my mind that, like, where's it coming from? Because this is a very
Same
depressed
thing, they
area.
get money to pay for copay for any prescription you come up with, it, 'cause
Does
it's
it-
the medicine that you need.
Yeah, but I mean, do they have medical cards for this and pay for it? I mean, you take like Blue Cross?
Although insurance can.
No, insurance doesn't cover it. Well, you see what I'm saying though? Like, where do they come up with all this money to do this when a lot of these people are not even working?
That's where caregivers and nonprofits come in. I know Alicia has one of the widest diversities of different applications for her medicine, and she's really, you know, probably more knowledgeable than I am as far as diagnosing how you should ingest or use your medicine, and that plays a lot into it. But like, I have 2 patients right now. I had 3. I have 2 patients right now, and I'm able to keep their costs super low because I'm a patient as myself, and so we commingle. There's a big misconception about the amount of marijuana you need medically. It just goes from what ailment you have. I mean, you might need something as small as 1 milligram a day will be effective for you. And 1 milligram of THC is a very small amount and doesn't cost that much compared to if you had to get a prescription for Lyrica, for instance. You know, I mean, the cost isn't that high. It has come down significantly since 2008.
Okay, then, so how do these providers make such a great living? Somebody's gotta pay.
Because there's no regulation right now.
It'll create a lot of new jobs.
Yeah.
The new laws will create a lot of new jobs. You'll need transporters,
Right.
processors.
There's other.
Yeah, well, I understand, you know, I'm trying to be smart with this, but do, you know, like, because there's not very much industry in this area, do we want to be known as the dispensary of the UP? I mean, you know, like in some jurisdictions, you've got more business and you can kind of have
If we're a
dispensary
model,
over here
like,
and, you know, I don't know, I don't know.
If we're a model for it, just like she said, if we're a model for it, if we do it right,
absolutely.
we don't have a need for 50 dispensaries out here.
Yeah.
We don't have a need for that. You know, we could get by just saying that in a spirit of competitiveness, maybe we just put a limit on 2 or 3, and the law allows you to limit it. You know, but I think we already have that reputation, not as the drug haven, but when it comes to marijuana, we have a reputation of having some really good herb up here. Downstate, they grow a ton of it, but you know where most of our overages go? Downstate. Even when at our severe electrical disadvantage, they want our stuff up here because people have really just poured their hearts and time and they're putting out good quality product, you know, and those same people will be the ones buying for these there's different levels of professional grows, and then there's testing facilities. We really should get you guys that information. Do you care if I just print up as much as I can, you know, for each of you, and I'll leave it with Joe, and then, because if you guys read over it, you'll have a better understanding of what we're telling you, and then you're just not taking our word for it either.
You know, on the other side of the coin though, I would like to look at all the information, like what jurisdictions have done this already and what's increased. Has crime increased? Has anything increased that's gonna cause the village, cities, whatever, to spend more money, have to hire more people? Is it like that? We gotta look at the whole ball of wax, not just,
Well, I think you can
The
look
one
at Colorado, I
You
think
can
would
look
be a
at
good.
Colorado
Yeah.
and their crime rates are
Yeah,
down.
because they're not only
Their
medical, it's
opioid
recreational.
use is down.
well,
Really?
it's just, yeah, well, they're different than Michigan. Michigan is just medical.
Right.
you know, that's a whole different ballgame.
Which should actually tell you more because there's that many more people using.
Yeah.
If it's recreational and everyone has access to it, everyone 18 and older, you've got a larger group of people to base those numbers off of.
Yeah, and was it Washington State that?
DC.
Or is it, it was DC that, so that would be another example.
No, Washington State.
Washington State, I thought it did.
Yeah, Washington State.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's recent though, is that just
It's
January
in
1st?
November,
or-
wasn't it?
Washington DC is legal for recreational as well, it's just their ordinance aren't as well defined and they have a real conflict with the federal government there, so,
Yeah.
you know, it's,
That's another problem is, you
Well,
know,
now, on that, just recently reported or just early this last week, in the new spending bill, they redid the Owens Act or whatever that Holder and the Obama administration said, which is any state that has medical marijuana enacted, the federal government will not spend any money to investigate as long or prosecute as long as the people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, recently stated in response to Washington State's governor making a statement about how they'll battle the federal government over their marijuana. He recently stated that they don't have an interest as of right now for recreational marijuana. So Colorado, Washington State, Nevada, California just enacted, Alaska,
yeah, that's,
Massachusetts, Maryland, I think is another one. Oregon, there's 17 right now with rec, I believe.
the main things to remember is industrial is where people can grow. So anything we've got zoned industrial,
Or
that's
agricultural.
where we can, or agricultural, I'm just assuming we don't have any. agricultural. We may have.
Never know in Calumet. Never know.
There is a property up there, but
Yeah.
basically industrial area, commercial areas, but you still have your restrictions for your schools and your churches. So you could adjust zoning, you know, and maybe that's for later on down the line, but the main thing is, the sooner we get this ordinance done, we can amend it if we see something in the law that changes, but the sooner we get the ordinance down, the sooner they can start making money for the village. You know, because as soon as you guys do the ordinance, they come in, they pay their fee, and right away, the village is getting
The
money.
annual fee, you have the excise tax, a
Yeah.
lot of money comes right back to the village.
So we'll put together that paperwork, or I'll put it together.
I'd be happy to help.
If you could work on some sample ordinances,
Yeah.
and I'll get the law itself together, and we'll get it back to you guys, and you guys can check it out, and, you know, there's no reason why we can't do this right, and the sooner we get it done, the sooner we can show the rest of the community up here that, yeah, we're not gonna shy away from it, you know, and we'll be able to compete, because we don't have a whole lot of room within the village, but if we had one or two more spots, you know, we'll get them before Lorien does. We'll get them before Lake Linden does. The more industry we have here, the less industry they may have somewhere else, which would in turn mean more money for the village. You know.
I'm gonna be looking into how many jurisdictions in the state, in the UP, are gonna write this ordinance, okay? Because I know of some now that are not gonna do it, they're just not gonna do it. You know, you know, you guys know, you're more up on this thing than we are. I wanna know how many jurisdictions are writing ordinances for this, because otherwise we're gonna be it. You know, we might just be it, like a small area like Gaster here might be like the, you know, the hub of marijuana. You know, I wish things were different. I wish things were, you know, it isn't a felony with the feds. I wish that was different. I wish that people, you know, you didn't just go to some motel to get a card. I wish it was done in a little better confinement, so you know you can make better decisions. Because right now, if you were to take a survey, which you don't have to say, of how many people have gotten their medical marijuana cards from a primary doctor, it'd be pretty low.
It's very slowly starting to open up. People
It's
are
very,
starting
very
to have
low.
that conversation with their doctor, but people are nervous to break that relationship because of opinion.
And regardless what we do, it's
Right.
not gonna change who has medical marijuana cards. I mean, they're still
No,
gonna
it's
have.
not gonna change. I just wish on making a decision, things are so, I don't know, this law, they could have done a better job. Let's put it
I've
that
had a
way.
couple of patients
You know?
that have been sent though by a Dr. Ad Adam, from Portage, so,
Adam?
I think his first name is Adam.
Oh, I know
But yeah,
it
there's,
is.
yeah,
Mhm.
a position at Portage that, I don't know if you heard a radio broadcast or what, but I know that some local positions are starting to.
But he hasn't written a
open up
prescription.
advocate.
Yep.
He has written a
Oh,
No,
prescription.
it's not a prescription, it's a recommendation.
Yeah, see, there's a big difference.
Right, no,
That's
but
all they
yeah.
can write, is a recommendation.
No, a doctor can write a prescription for it too,
It's a
because,
recommendation.
Not for marijuana.
not for the smoking, but for if you, for the
It's not-
capsule, the,
For
no.
marijuana,
No, it's a recommendation.
Oh, see, I'm gonna be checking on that too, because I thought they could write a prescription for it. So there's no primary doctors in the state of Michigan that can write a prescription for
There's no
the
pres-
medicine.
There's no prescription for the medicine, only a recommendation.
Same thing,
That
different
works.
words.
Yeah, that's how it's worded.
Yeah, you
It's
see,
just-
it's just,
When you get a medical
The whole thing is
marijuana
like-
prescription, it's actually just a
it's just the
recommendation.
way that
It's
they
the way
worded
they
it in the
worded it.
act, the same
Yeah.
way that payment is a donation.
So they're
and not
just-
payment.
they're just okaying you to get signing on your medical marijuana card, is pretty much what it is. So it isn't a prescription, but it's if you're an MD, it's an okay to, they sign off on the card.
Yep, they check, make sure you have their qualifying conditions. They
Right.
check and make sure, they make.
But my question is, like, why can't the primary doctor be the recommendee?
And they can.
And sign off on the card instead of sending you to
Yep,
somebody
they
else?
can.
Administration. It's
Okay.
hospital administration that prevents the doctors from signing off these cards, and that's why people go to motels. Both my patients are able to go to their primary doctors. They both have the same doctor at Portage Health, and I'll leave his name out of it because he likes to keep his name out of it. But when you go to Aspirus, same patients, they actually had to switch hospitals because the administration at Aspirus, I don't know the exact words, but they don't like their doctors to write those cards. And so a lot of the reason why we have these traveling doctors is because the primary care physicians aren't educated yet. And their higher uppers aren't educated yet. And then you have a huge pharmaceutical industry that is threatened by a lot of different uses for marijuana. I mean, I've learned so much in 8 years, and I've seen it help so many people. It's just given me a whole different take on it than 8 years ago. 8 years ago, it was, woohoo, let's go to lunch, get high. Not anymore. I mean, it's just a completely different thing than when we were growing up.
It's too
not the
bad,
same.
like you said, but
Yeah, it's
until
too bad.
federally they open it up, then it's difficult for any scientist to research, and most doctors go off of scientific research. It's still an alternative
Mhm.
medicine to
Right.
them.
Being federally illegal to the doctor.
But
put his name
it's
on.
still a federal felony, and that's what makes it crazy. This whole thing is like a big circle that never
Yeah.
ends.
Which is, like I said, they enacted, they're not gonna, use any money to do it, to prosecute or go after any medical marijuana, but that's only for the next 6 months. And then in 6 months, they're gonna re-vote on it again. It's just that until everybody catches up,
We have to go hurdle to hurdle.
including the rest of the world, because I know now Mexico just made medical marijuana, they made a medical marijuana program just this week for the nation.
Some countries don't even have any restrictions. I grew up in a foreign country. There was no restrictions on anything. Zero.
Well,
No, I think you have a lot of maturity. I mean, I'm glad you recognize there's a generational gap. I know for me, I struggle sometimes because, I grew up with Nancy Reagan
I know.
and just say no to drugs.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the other good thing that you're pointing out is, you have to, that this truly is medicinal, not, again, it's not recreational, it's not just to have a good time. I mean, it really is addressing physical complaints. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and that there have been 0 deaths ever associated with marijuana. Now, there are things we need to be careful of, especially as we're getting into different forms of marijuana, like concentrates that can have more of an adverse effect on people. That's why we need to regulate it, but it's safe, it's effective. We learn more about that every day. It turns lives around and it brings money back into the community, so.
Well, when you hear of somebody's primary doctor, I had a lady, she had glaucoma, after just a few weeks after just a few weeks, she goes to her doctor, eye pressures are normal. Goes to her doctors again, eye pressures are normal, you know. And he doesn't know what she's doing because, you know, she's afraid to say anything to him, you know. But when she comes back from the doctor and she's just ecstatic that her eye pressures are normal and she's not worried about going blind, you know. I mean, that's when you really see the medical side. When you know, it's just people with MS, it's huge for them. I mean, just mobility wise. I mean, because that disease just goes downhill so quick. And if you can slow it down just a little bit, it's amazing. You know, I know people that have MS that have not taken that path, and I know people that have taken that path, and it's clearly a difference. You know, you really, it's frustrating sometimes because you see people that you know you can help, but because the way we were brought up, this is your brain on pot, you know.
Well,
Just because of that, it you know, it makes people not want to try it for themselves, and you know, that's the sad part. But when you see somebody that really benefits from it, I mean, those eye pressures, that was amazing. You know, I mean, because she'd been taking medicine for glaucoma for years, you know, and then just tried the marijuana, boom, stabilized everything out, you know, and you don't see necessarily those kind of successes all the time, but when the people that I've interacted with, I've seen real success. Traumatic brain injury, glaucoma, MS, diabetic neuropathy. I mean, the list goes on. You know.
I mean, this is a question just off the top of my head. If you were a guessing person and you had to give me a number, how many people would you say have medical marijuana cards that have them for recreational purposes only, but they got it because they said they had a bad back? What would you say the percentage? If you had to be real honest, would it be 90, 95%? Would it be that high?
I don't think so, but you have to have a pre-qualifying condition that a doctor said, okay, qualifies, and then you get your card.
I understand your question.
You understand what my question is?
I understand what
Because
your
you can go to a
question is.
doctor and say, I have a bad back, and they can do tests
we
and not
should-
determine anything, and you could take that information and go and get it. You know, I'm looking at every side here. I'm looking at the legal side, I'm looking at the, you know, the crime side, I'm looking at the, you know, the helpful side. I wanna look at all
I
sides.
think if you
I
would
think
take that.
if you go through all the proper steps to obtain something, you know, how many people get a driver's license that can't really drive? You know, I mean, you go through all the proper steps. I don't know if it's really right to be so presumptive of someone's.
Well, the reason I asked that is Nathan said 90% of it is,
Right, well, that's what I was about to clarify. I was about
Yeah.
to clarify with you. Through her shop, there's a difference in her clientele and people that I run across in the business. I mean, I know quite a few people in the business. I know quite a few people that are in it for the wrong reasons. I know quite a few people that are in it for the right reasons. And yes, in my contact, I run across a great deal of people that go get their card for a little backache or whatever. But I think when it comes to the people going to the actual dispensaries, you're going to find, you know, I mean, I see some of the people that go into Alicia's place. It's legitimate, Virginia. It's legitimate. But yes, you're right. And in my experience, there's a lot of
I have
people that
experience
abuse
with
it.
this too, that
There's a lot
you're
of
probably
people
aware of.
But when you see the people that go in to these places, you know, and I'm not going to name any names, but they truly suffer. They're not, you know, the people that are out for recreational, they're not walking into the dispensary to get it. They're not walking into it because you can get it for half the price somewhere else. You know, that's why I'm just urging, nurture this business because they are up against a wall. You know,
If I had to guess, I would say that most recreational people, just from conversations that I had, don't like to be on the list
yeah,
and don't get a card.
this is true.
Yeah.
And
That's
we,
just
And
they,
if they grow too, they don't want a card either because they don't want to be on that list.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to look into everything. I wanna look into what other towns in the UP have decided for or against. I wanna look at, you know, the pros and cons. I wanna see public input. I wanna see it all. Because we don't wanna just be, does it fit in with the historical district? I mean, it goes on and on and on. We gotta do this right, because,
We have over 500 card holders here in Houghton County and all of Houghton County. So
I believe there's that many, if not
if
more.
we regulate it, then we keep that money out of the black market and into legal production. If we don't have a dispensary here, those 500 people, card holders, are not going to quit getting their medicine. They're gonna get it somewhere else.
Cartels were gone up here. Mexican dope disappeared within a year and a half of legalization. That means the money stayed in
Probably why
Michigan.
Mexico has their own program now.
What's that?
That's why they legalized it. because
Right,
they
but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The more we make it difficult to do it legally, the more you're gonna have a problem with the black market. It's just basic.
It's just not gonna hold
Prohibition
up.
doesn't work, if we over-regulate it here, then we're gonna encourage the illegal element, here. I don't know what the township's working on, but I've heard the township's working on an ordinance, and there's no dispensary there. I know when I talked to the guys down at the Noggin, supposedly there's an ordinance being written for them, but.
That's Torch Lake, right?
Yeah, Torch Lake.
Torch Lake.
Yeah.
And I don't know that for sure because
Yeah,
it's hearsay. But if Torch Lake is writing an ordinance, then maybe we have some kind of communication with them as well. And if the township is planning on it, then, we should talk with them as well. But the basic ordinance, it should not be hard to write and should be easy to amend because of the changes coming. We'll keep it short, keep it simple, and then amend as needed. And, if we encounter problems along the way, we can change the ordinance to deal with those problems. If we see opportunities, we amend the ordinance for those opportunities. But the sooner we get an ordinance in place, no matter how complex or how simple, the sooner the industry can have a stable foundation to go off of, and the sooner the village can be able to benefit from it, because it can make a huge difference, in our fund balances,
Plus, when the laws got changed, we came up and talked to you guys first.
Yes, you've
Before
been
we-
very respectful. I really
Before we
appreciate
moved in
that.
or opened the shop up, we made sure we got contact with the landowner, and then we came up here and made sure we talked to the city council or the village council and talked to Rob.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, you've always done it.
No, you've done
Okay,
that.
so I didn't know, yeah.
Yeah, you
we
wanna
were
be
trying to do it the right
transparent
way,
and-
too.
yeah,
So,
right.
we're not trying to jump in ahead of time to take
Oh, I don't
advantage of
believe that
whatever,
at all.
or none of that, so.
It's just a matter of, is it gonna be beneficial for our jurisdiction? That's the bottom line, is we gotta look at it all.
You're more than welcome to come take a look at our shop and come by and at least have an experience if you'd like to see what one looks like.
I will. Because I am curious. Yeah, no, I am curious. I'm curious. I'm gonna be a field
If you've
trip.
never been one, come on in. There's certain regulations where if you don't have your card, you won't be able to see the actual medicine and stuff like that.
That's
But
fine. Yeah. That's it.
I guess, we're gonna have to continue this, and thanks for coming, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I really learned a lot.
Yeah.
I really did. I really did. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you for hearing
I think it just
Yeah.
comes down to education.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So.
Do they have your card?